Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. China sets a modest economic growth target of 5% this year at the start of the annual legislature meeting. 2 pedestrians were knocked unconscious after a taxi careers downhill in North Point. And more than 100 countries agreed to scale down activity in high seas to protect marine biodiversity. China has set a modest economic growth target of 5% this year as it aims to step away from the shadows of COVID. Premier Li Keqiang also outlined other goals for the government in his final work report at the start of the National People's Congress. Azam Khan reports.
Under a round of synchronized applause, President Xi Jinping entered the Great Hall of the People at the start of the annual session for the National People's Congress. While China has lifted its COVID curbs, nearly 3,000 delegates of the legislature still put on masks as a precaution, although the top leaders were given an exemption. The opening ceremony began with Premier Li Keqiang taking to the podium to deliver his last government work report. The 67-year-old will soon step down after 10 years as China's number 2, who traditionally oversees the economy. He began by praising the government's battle against COVID, as well as the sacrifices made by the people. Li described the past year as difficult, but noted the economy has been resilient in overcoming challenges. He was optimistic that the world's second-largest economy will rebound this year, after missing its growth target in 2022. Li predicted gross domestic product to grow by around 5% this year. If achieved, it'll be a notable improvement from the 3% expansion last year. Another focus will be keeping the unemployment rate in check. The central government wants to maintain the urban jobless rate at 5.5%, while creating 12 million jobs in cities. The report also noted that an increasing income for rural residents helped reduce poverty. Inflation, meanwhile, would increase to 3% this year, compared to 2% in 2022. But the outgoing premier conceded that economic recovery is not guaranteed, pointing to weak private investment and uncertainties in the property market. But amid rising geopolitical tensions, the central government is not holding back on military expenses. It has set aside a budget of 1.55 trillion yuan in 2023, a 7.2% increase year on year. This marks the second year in a row that military spending had risen by more than 7%. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
The central government once again pledged its support to Hong Kong and Macau and reiterated the importance of one country, 2 systems. It also called for economic and cultural exchanges with Taiwan in a sign that Beijing wants to mend the rift. Concluding Beijing's oversight of Hong Kong and Macau in the past 5 years, Premier Li Keqiang declared new progress has been achieved at the 2 SARs. Li noted the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong has been firmly upheld, citing the implementation of the national security law in 2020. He credited the legislation for helping Hong Kong transition from chaos to order and from order to prosperity. The central government will continue to support Hong Kong and Macau in developing the economy, improving people's lives, and maintaining prosperity and stability, Li added. And like in previous years, the work report reiterated the importance of one country, 2 systems for Hong Kong and Macau. China sees the success of the principle as key in its bid to reunify with Taiwan, and Li once again made Beijing's goal clear. Beijing will continue to stand firm in opposing Taiwan independence and promote peaceful reunification, Li said, adding people from both sides of the strait are one family bond by blood. But he also took a more conciliatory tone by calling for greater economic and cultural exchanges and did not threaten to take the island by force. As always, China will be a contributor to the world's development and a guardian of international order, he concluded. As President Xi Jinping headed for the exit at the end of the session, he paused and greeted Chief Executive John Lee, who attended the session for the first time in office. Lee later expressed gratitude for the Premier's work report and vowed to promote Hong Kong's role in national development. In Hong Kong, 5 people were injured in North Point after a taxi barreled through a crossing and knocked down multiple pedestrians. 2 of them were unconscious and were taken to Eastern Hospital, Sachin Kafi reports.
Dashcam footage from another car captured the terrifying moment a taxi careered downhill and mowed down multiple passers-by. The accident occurred around 1 p.m. when the crossing was filled with pedestrians. The taxi driver reportedly lost control of the vehicle while traveling downhill along Fortress Hill Road. It ran a red light at the junction of Kings Road, knocked down multiple people, and only came to stop after ramming into a traffic light and railings. At least 3 pedestrians were injured, 2 of whom were unconscious when they were sent to Eastern Hospital. The 84-year-old driver and a passenger suffered minor injuries. The front part of the taxi was severely damaged. Police removed its dashboard camera for further investigation. Tram services to and from Quarry Bay were affected, while one eastbound lane of Kings Road was closed to traffic. The cause of the accident is still under investigation. Sachin Katbi, HKIBC.
Police have beefed up security in Wan Chai after a planned mass rally was scrapped by the organizer in the 11th hour. The Hong Kong Women Workers Association had earlier obtained a letter of no objection to stage the rally from Southbourne Playground to government headquarters. It would have been the first rally to be authorized by police since COVID. Police warned that anyone who still gathered in the vicinity could be arrested for unlawful assembly. Acting Senior Superintendent Dennis Chang said the organizers informed police of the decision after considering a number of factors. He claimed that some violent groups had planned to turn up. Overseas, in a landmark deal, more than 100 countries have agreed to a treaty which will safeguard marine biodiversity in international waters by minimizing the impact of human activities.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ship has reached the shore.
Known as the Treaty of the High Seas, the agreement aims to preserve marine life in areas which do not fall under the jurisdiction of any country and are at risk due to climate change, overfishing, and research activity. The areas covered under the treaty will scale down fishing, sea traffic, and deep-sea mining. Participating countries will formally adopt the agreement at a later date before it can be implemented. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency visited Iran seeking assurances that the country isn't producing nuclear weapons. Rafael Grossi was met by Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian in Tehran. The agency's inspectors had recently found uranium particles enriched to about 84% at a plant, just shy of the 90% purity needed to make nuclear bombs. But Iran said it never attempted to enrich uranium past 60%. Speaking in Vienna at the conclusion of his trip, Grossi refused to disclose details of the talks, only saying Iran has pledged transparency by allowing more inspections.
Well, in fact, they don't need to give me an explanation of why they enrich at 60%. What we need to ensure is that we have the necessary ability to inspect the activities there. They enriched at the levels that they declare. There are certain parameters, as you know, between an inspected state and the IAEA. They tell us this is what we are going to do, and then we perform the necessary inspections. So in that regard, in terms of motivations and reasons, which I believe is a little bit behind your question, we don't discuss that.
Around 50,000 people have taken to the streets of Sydney to celebrate the final day of World Pride Festival, which calls for support and inclusion of the LGBT community.
For us to be able to say we're here and we're accepted is just astonishing to me. It's just brilliant. I mean, I wouldn't have thought in my lifetime that's happened. And yes, my God, it is. And look at all this.
A bridge symbolises bringing people together, and this is about bringing together the Australian community, celebrating diversity, but also acknowledging that around the world with World Pride, many people still suffer because of who they are, because of their sexuality.
The iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge was sealed off for 7 hours this morning as the rainbow-hued crowd made its way across. It was the first time the festival took place in the Southern Hemisphere, having started in Italy in 2000. The next edition is set in 2025 in Washington, D.C. On to the weather now. It will be fine and dry through the start of the week. Temperatures will range between 17 and 24 degrees. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Sunday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Joanna Ho. Thanks for watching. Good night.